What is up? Welcome to the NBA Rundown, brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Sports and Run Pure Bets. I'm your host, Astaire, joined today by Tyler Hicks and JSU. JSU, it's been a couple weeks since we've seen you. A lot has been going on in the NBA. Any overarching thoughts on the way this season is progressing?
Yeah, no, I mean it's been a little while. I've been away, with the live final, and then Big T's little bash after that. I just went from Nashville with them down to Kentucky, so I was away for a little while. Good to be back on with the boys, and gonna pick some winners. I mean, from an NBA standpoint, I mean, the Bulls are frauds. Like I'll throw that one out there. What was it like against really good teams? They're like awful right now. Did you guys see that? Like their record is
Oh, and
terrible against really
15
good.
against teams that are top
Yeah,
three in the
they
conference.
can't beat a top three team in either conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we knew that kind of. I feel like that's something I don't think like that was like hidden either. I think a lot of people have just thought that throughout most of the season because if you guys remember, like in the beginning and middle of the season, DeMar DeRozan was like literally carrying them. I mean, like putting up like 40 and like hitting game-winning shots. And you're like, that just can't continue to that type of level all the way through the season. And we all know when the playoffs come, defense everyone gets more and more into the defensive end. That's the one thing with the NBA we all know when it comes to playoff time. Every team, even the bad defensive teams, get a little better. Everyone plays a little harder on the defensive side. The Bulls are in a lot of trouble here. I think the Bulls could have an early exit in this playoffs. But the Heat thing, I know, you guys see the little altercation with
That's so
Haslam
overblown.
and Jimmy, and then it went from that to Spo, and it's like, yeah, what are we doing here? So you Haslam's like he's 50, trying to pick fights with Jimmy Butler, telling him he's gonna whoop his ass, and then Jimmy's talking back to him, saying they're going back and forth on like, yo, you couldn't play in my error. It's like, dude, your error was, I mean, it's the same fucking error for the most part. No fucking difference. Like, what are you talking about, Udonis Haslam? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, maybe you could say like, oh, D Wade, you couldn't shine D Wade's shoes or something like that. I don't know, something like that. But like, the error, like, what are you talking about? It's the same damn error. Still be Jimmy Butler when you played. Like, there'd be no difference to what he's doing.
It's pretty
It was
bad.
just stupid.
If you think of anyone who would translate it to back then, right? It's Butler. Right? He doesn't rely on a lot of that crap.
That's what made no sense to me. I was like, Jimmy's the player that I feel like could play in the early 90s, in the late 80s. Like, I don't know if you guys see it that way, but like if you were to tell me like, hey, JSU, pull 5 guys out that like their styles could just they could still have their style in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler would definitely be one of the 5.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. His game isn't predicated on deep shooting, right? It's predicated on banging. He plays tough defense. He likes to get down with the trees and score, get fouls, or finish through contact, right? These are all things Jimmy Butler does well, right? Doesn't that fit in with Spread? Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, I completely agree with you. And I just think it was overblown because I think a lot of it now is a lot of these kids growing up, and we got to remember when we're on Twitter and we're seeing stuff, it definitely skews younger. They didn't all play sports like we did when I was growing up because there was nothing else for us to do back then. Like we had like an 8-bit Nintendo, right? You jump like Cubert down the thing. It got boring after like an hour, right? So we're out there running around playing sports. And so I don't think they understand in that environment, you get into these type of shouting matches all the time. And then you get the dap and it's like, let's go. Right. I mean, it's like, you don't even think about it.
I guess the one thing we don't really see as much is the coach, like, not that we don't see a coach yell at a player, because we've definitely seen a coach and a player get into it, right? It was the way in which he did it. Like, he walked onto the court after they were yelling at each other on the bench, and then kind of started to step back a little, and then came back forward and started yelling at him again. It was like, we don't normally see that. Like, coach,
I think it happens in the locker room, Mike. Not every day,
but doesn't. I'm just saying there's a game. The ball's about to be inbounded, and Coach Spo is like still giving it to Jimmy Butler, and I'm sure he's trying. like at that point, he was trying to, I don't know, explain himself or whatever. I have no idea what he was trying to do, but like, it just looked to me like it was just a spat. I guess they'll blow it over, but it was just funny to see. And we got people in the chat. Giannis could play in any era. You're right, he could play in any era because remember, Giannis is when he came into the league. What do we make fun of him for? Because we made fun of him because he couldn't shoot, right? Especially from deep. Back then, he didn't need to do that.
Exactly.
Once he filled out his frame, which he did like a few years ago, once he filled out his frame and got strong enough, he's just going to bang down low. He's going to get rebounds. He's going to block shots. He's going to put backs, short little bunny jumpers. That would all fit. Like, yeah, he's a great example of someone who could play in any era, especially back then. Like he would honestly, in my opinion, he'd be even better. Because
I think so
his
too.
athleticism wouldn't be rival, not even close. This is what people don't understand. It's the stupidest thing ever when they're like, "Oh, he couldn't play." And what are you talking about? He would be even more unstoppable if that was the. Think of like the giant dudes who were unstoppable back in the day spread, but then give them all the athleticism of Giannis. Think about that.
Yeah, I mean it'd be crazy.
It'd be nuts. It'd be insane to see someone of his size with his skills and athleticism. They wouldn't know what to do. They would just foul him constantly, and he's so big and strong that he'd still be able to finish through contact. That's what people don't understand. It's like, yeah, I'd put you on your ass if you dunked on me. It's like, yeah, bro, but I'm still gonna dunk on you. You're just gonna hit me. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
All right. Well, I don't see Robert in the chat, right? But Robert and I were chatting a little bit last night because I had a good night on the show, right? And he says it's funny, you're up, over $1,000, but what you're really happy about is getting the pick on Tyler, right? So I got you again, Tyler, right? Young Anakin hasn't defeated Obi-Wan yet. I'm still alive. But what did you think of the NBA last night, Tyler?
It was all right. I mean, there's a couple upsets I didn't see coming, but for the most part, it was a typical NBA night.
The only thing that really pissed me off, and we didn't really get involved in that one, was that the Kings beat the Pacers and ruined their lottery position. Like, and I understand, like, players don't tank. Like, I wouldn't not try hard to just get someone to come in and take my job, but a little disappointed about that. But overall, it was a pretty good night. And, Memphis got it done, and that was the one that we were opposite on. So let's see where we all land today because, Tyler and I usually don't talk about these before the show starts. So I'll be eager to get into it right now. Let me refresh Bookmaker.
You had to think, though, like the Kings and Pacers last night, that was going to be like, a tough back and like close game where the Kings were going to play hard. Remember, they're going up against like dudes that just left, right? I'm sure there's still a little like they had to get up for a game like that. I mean, I don't know if you're saying I would have picked them to win. I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have picked the Pacers to win. But I did think the game was going to be kind of like it was. I thought in the end the Pacers would win. But Sacramento,
we picked the Pacers, but we thought, hey, let's not get involved, right? I mean, it was just we didn't want to lay 6 with the Pacers. The money line price was way too high because you have just two terrible teams. I thought Halliburton and Hield would be a little more motivated than Hield, once again showing why we were so happy to get rid of him. But other than that, it was a fairly good night. Let's jump into tonight. The Cleveland Cavaliers will be in Toronto taking on the Raptors. Raptors are -5. This line opened at 3.5, went all the way out to 5.5. It's settled in at 5. I think this is probably where it'll stay the rest of the day. I can't see that much more buyback coming in on Cleveland, but we'll see. Total 215 plus 166 for the Cavaliers if you want to take them on the money line. The news that we're waiting for is, will we have the return of OG Anunoby? I'm guessing yes, because this is the first time we've actually seen him on the injury report and not, on the just completely out list. So I think they're going to give it a go, try and get him out there. And, of course, Gary Trent Jr. Is another name we're waiting on as well. But, hey, when Fred VanVleet's in there, this Toronto team's really good. Tyler, I'm going to keep it brief. I like the Raptors -5 here. Since the Cavaliers have lost Jared Allen, they just don't have the same defensive ability. Darius Garland is great, but, boy, he had like 29 and 17 in the last outing, and they still lost. So, I mean, how much do we expect from young Garland? What are your thoughts, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm with you. Give me the Raptors. I mean, that big performance came against the Lakers, who can't defend guards whatsoever. So, of course, he put up the big numbers. Now he goes against a team that is going to put for Van Fleet on him who plays good defense. If Gary Trent's in there, he's also going to throw some rotation defense on him. OG's in there and they try and run a screen and roll. That's another guy that can cover him. So I don't see Garland having a big game. You get the Mobley, Scotty Barnes narrative where they're going back and forth for the Rookie of the Year if you still think that award's open. I don't think so. I think Mobley's got it locked up. But yeah, for the most part, I think the Raptors win this game. I mean, Cleveland in their last 7 games on the road spread, they're 1-6. Yeah. Now they're going to travel up to Toronto. So yeah, I'm going to go with Toronto here. I like Siakam's double-double and win. I like We the People's calling Scotty Barnes 20+ and win. And I would do the 25+ and win too, because I could see him having a big game here.
Yeah, interesting thing here with Toronto at home, right? So remember, for a while they had absolutely no fans at all, right? Toronto was 10-4 in that time, right? With no fans in the arena, just their little mascot. They're actually 7-12 with fans in the arena. I think that could be, you know, kind of just random and maybe not correlated, but I just thought that was a funny stat when I was researching this game. JSU, I mean, I like Toronto. Tyler likes Toronto. And I guess all I have to say is I can't believe that Toronto got Gary Trent Jr. for Norman Powell. That still shocks me to this day.
Yeah, that was a robbery, Gary Trent. I mean, he goes through his shooting woes or whatever, but I mean, come on, that's tough. It stinks that Norman Powell's been kind of nicked up and injured, that's for sure, but it was a bad trade, a terrible trade. But I agree with you guys. I think the Raptors would be my lean in this game. It's not wouldn't be like a best bet for me. Cleveland's definitely been struggling on the road. You guys put that out there. Jared Allen is a big piece to that team. And for what they want to do, kind of when they're rolling out that like big lineup, and it's just not the same when they don't have Jared Allen out there, you know. So I think I would lean the Raptors with the points, but again, I think I like some other, you know, spots where I don't know if this is going to be like a top play of mine or anything like that.
All right. From a DFS perspective, I see Garland's at the most expensive 9,700, Siakam's 8,500, and I know we do have to wait for the news, but how are you approaching this?
Yeah, I don't like this game, to be honest. I don't like it from the DFS side. I think, you know, the news could sway me a tad. Maybe I'd like 1 or 2 plays a little bit more, but like for me personally, especially if these guys come back in, you've got guys at the peak prices, you know what I mean? Out like Siakam 8.5 if these guys are back. Garland's at 9.7. Don't really love guards here against Toronto, especially when Freddie's in, if Gary's in, you know, OG, if OG's back. Like these are some of their better defenders, you know what I mean? So we'll see on that. But I just think for me right now, if I was going to play anyone, it would probably be Mobley or maybe Markkanen if you think that they're going to, you know, hang around in this game from a price tag standpoint. I think those are the 2 guys I'd look at, but I think this is a game I'm going to fade. In DFS, you got to remember too, like there's one game that locks at 7:30. This is the game. The rest of the games lock at 8 and 9. So it might that extra half hour might help with your lineup builds. We might get more lineups out, which might be key. You know, if we see some starters that we didn't think were going to pop up and start, you know what I mean? Indiana, who are they going to start here? You know, is Hallie going to be in? We'll see when we get this news. We'll see when we get all that news. But like, if it comes down to us not having the news and me just fading this game, I have no issue with it.
All right, I got just a basketball question for you because I think I mean, I could be wrong, but it's pretty clear he's not going to be in a lineup I make. But Karis LeVert was the guy that we thought was going to be a big addition for the Cavaliers here, not really getting it done. And I know you watch a lot. What have you seen from Karis LeVert? I know that he struggled with fouls against the Lakers, but hey, maybe not the offensive weapon we were hoping when Cleveland added him.
Yeah, so I don't really understand it. I know there's some games where he's had foul trouble, but I don't know, like, why is he not getting massive run here? We've seen him when he's had big run produce for big games. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's just not fitting in right now. If defensively, maybe he's not with what they want defensively. Because it's clear to me that Cleveland, the way they started this team, it's about defense, turning defense into offense, right? It's about like, let's try and get, you know, more stops. You know, offense will come but like our focus needs to be defensively, turning teams over. And that's why I think they started this big lineup that has worked out well for them when everyone's been healthy, right? Like that's like what makes their team different, right? How many teams do you see where you got like Laurie, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen? Like you don't see teams starting that type of big. And then you've got a predominant ball handling guard in Darius Garland. Maybe they feel like too, when Garland's out there, Karis LeVert maybe takes the ball away from him too much, and they want the ball in Garland's hand to create more. Like I don't get it, but that might be one or two of the reasons why he's not getting more run with this team. I don't know, Spread. Do you see anything? Because I'm kind of lost at why he doesn't play more.
I am too. That's why I brought it up, because I thought that maybe you're seeing stuff. Because I'll be honest, I usually just watch what I bet on, right? That's like usually my priorities, and I haven't had a lot on Cavaliers lately, so I've been kind of avoiding them. It's just tough. Like I'll fade them here and there, but I still kind of like them, so I haven't bet on them a lot. Tyler, anything more from this game before we move on?
No, that's it for me on this one. I was just looking at the minutes rotations for LeVert and trying to see if I noticed anything with that, but I'm not seeing anything either.
Okay, let's move on to a game where the news.
Because he's not hurt anymore, right? Like that whole injury management, like that's out the window. He should be 100% by now.
I mean, maybe that's it.
Yeah. You're on mute, JSU.
Maybe they're being cautious with a guy who has had an injury-riddled career, right? Even before he came into the NBA, remember, Karis LeVert's the guy, if I'm not mistaken, when he got drafted, he was injured, right? And when the team drafted him, he was going to be out for a little while. Am I right with this?
I'm pretty sure. I'll double check, but I think you're right.
Yeah, he had like a significant injury too. And then he's gotten injured, recently. Maybe they're just saying like, let's get to the playoffs with this guy healthy. And then maybe from there, you see an uptick in minutes and stuff like that. Maybe they just don't think his body can handle big minutes without like the high risk of getting injured. Who knows?
I mean, that'll be something for us to keep an eye on. Just intuitively, it seems to me that number one, he's new to the team. You'd want to get him some reps. And with Allen out, right, they can't be that defensive juggernaut they were. They got to start trying to outscore some of these teams, and Garland can't do it all on his own. So that's why I'm just surprised that he's not getting the minutes.
I don't know, Spread. Garland's a stud. Garland might be able to do it all on his own at one point.
At one point, yeah, but
and he's a stud. All the stars know he's a stud. Yeah. When you got like KD, LeBron, Draymond's on his podcast, when you got guys like that with that type of stature talking you up, it's obvious. It's like recognizable how good he is. They know it. They don't just do that. They're not just like doing it because they like the kid. They're friends with everybody in the league. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like, oh, he's my boy, so I'm going to talk him up or anything. It's like, no, they like actually think he's going to be a stud in this league. Like they all believe.
Oh, I definitely think he's going to be a stud. I just,
when all those guys say it, though, we don't normally hear that from like the star players where like everyone's talking about a similar dude, but I've heard them all at one point this year talk this kid up.
Yeah, well, hey, great for Cleveland because they've had so many problems.
If you had to redraft his draft, he was in 2019. How much higher does he go? He went 5th.
Where did he go? 5?
He went 5th to Cleveland.
Who went ahead of him?
DeAndre Hunter at 4, so he probably jumps him easy.
Oh, yeah, he definitely jumps him.
RJ Barrett went 3, Ja went 2, Zion went 1. So he's probably stuck
okay,
at
so
4.
it'd be John, 2. It'd be John Garland. Yeah. 1, 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think the Hawks are too upset having DeAndre Hunter there, though. I think he's doing a pretty good job on that.
Well, they have Trey, so it's like
they're like, we don't need Garland.
Yeah.
Even though Trey and Garland would be kind of nice, get Trey off the ball a little. It's like Steph Curry. Think of a shooter like that when you can get him off the ball a little. He's not on the ball all the time. Let him run around, come off screens and stuff. I know it's not Trey's game, but he probably could do it. You know what I'm saying? Like if you had a Darius Garland, he wouldn't like constantly have the ball in his hands, and it would be fun to watch. Like two guys like that on the same team.
I think they need to get Luka more moving off the ball for Dallas. You look back at some of his highlights from like overseas play. He moved around screens, ran backdoor cuts, and now he just has the ball in his hands 24/7. It's like you could really evolve his offense. He might average 35 instead of 30 or 38.
Well, with Spencer, they probably could do it a little bit more.
Yeah, now you can with the extra point guard there.
Yeah.
I wonder if J Kidd just wants him on the ball because that's how he played, and he just figures like this is my J Kidd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, best player with the ball in his hands. I mean, that's I do get it.
I'm sure Kidd didn't want to play off ball when he was playing either. Let's talk about the Washington Wizards, who will be in Milwaukee taking on the Bucks. -8.5 here. This was 12.5. Of course, it moved because Giannis is going to sit. Chris Middleton also out, right? So it could be the Jrue Holiday show. Kyle Kuzma was questionable when I looked over this game last night. Looks like he is officially out, which will be disappointing for them, and Vernon Carey Jr. as well. It doesn't mean much to me. Maybe it helps from a DFS standpoint here. So this is kind of an interesting situation here, Tyler. We don't have a lot, like if you want to try and run numbers on these teams with both Giannis and Middleton out. Usually it turns into the Chris Middleton show when Giannis sits and Milwaukee isn't hurt that bad. Now Jrue becomes the primary option. Of course, Bobby Portis will have a big night. But, boy, how do we approach this one? Washington's been terrible, though. Losers of 6 of their last 7 and haven't won a road game since the beginning of February. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head. But it's been a long time since Washington's won a road game. Kristaps Porzingis is the ultimate DFS player. He gets you stats and does nothing to help you win. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm going to side with Milwaukee still here. I'm not going to lay the 8 because I still think that's a lot with all the guys out.
Yeah, I think
so looking
too.
right at these player performance doubles, I mean, Jrue Holiday to score 25-plus points and win, plus 144. Mm-hmm. Bobby Portis to score 18 and win, plus 152. Grayson Allen to hit 3 threes, plus 160. Bobby Portis to hit 3 threes, plus 270. So that's probably some ways I'm going to target this game. I can just see those guys picking up the extra usage with Giannis out now. Portis is going to have to play more minutes. Washington really doesn't have a big to slow him down. Like, Kristaps isn't going to keep him out of the paint. Neither's a guy like Gafford, so he's going to eat tonight. So I'm still going to take Milwaukee, but I'm not going to lay that 8.5. It's just going to be the player performance doubles for me.
Yeah, JSU, I think this is a tough game to bet, but I'm fascinated to see how you're going to approach this from a DFS perspective because it seems like how you play this game is probably going to be crucial to whether or not you win or lose, how you're approaching it.
Yeah, so one, I can't lay 9. I can't go 9 with the Bucks. Like, I'm seeing 9 points right now as the spread line on DK Sportsbook. Like, I can't do that when Giannis and Chris Middleton are both out. You know, I've seen when Giannis is out and they've struggled to, or they've kept it close with pretty bad teams. Like, he's that important. And then Chris Middleton's like the guy, he has the hot, I call him like the guy who goes hot and cold faster than anyone. Like, the dude will go hot in the first half for like 20 real points. And in the second half, you won't even know where he is. He's the most like inconsistent, really good player I think there is in the NBA. So when you lose those guys, though, that can give you those kind of like boost, hot starts, and you start having to rely on Grayson Allen, Pat Con, like, this just such a step down, right? I don't know how I don't side with Washington here. I know Washington's been bad, but you give me 9 points. I know it's away from home. I get it. I think Washington hangs around in this game. Again, Milwaukee, this happens all year with these good teams. They don't run them out of the gym. You can still tell me, I understand Milwaukee, with who they have right now, has a better roster. Even with the guys that are out, they have a better roster than Washington. I understand all of those things. But what happens when this happens is the other team looks across and sees who they're playing, and they just coast. And no doubt in my mind, I think they're going to coast here at home. I think the Wizards hang around. They might have a shot to win. That's how I see this game going. And thus, for DFS, I'm going to have a lot of interest in this game because if I think Washington can hang around, then you better bet your ass I'm going to play some guys from this game. So, yeah, this game is going to be a really important game, I think, for DFS. If you see one team just running away with it, though, then I get, maybe just playing one side and fading the loser side if you think it's going to be a blowout. then that's something you could do for DFS. But if you see the game going where Washington just hangs around and is there towards the end, you got to play some of these guys. Like, some of these guys have to be in play. Maybe you don't spend up for Porzingis because he's expensive at 8-4, but you could play others. You know what I mean? You could play a Rui, could play a 3-point shooter like a KCP or a Kispert. Get some of that 3-point shooting. So yeah, it just depends. Denny's another guy like Avila. So it just depends on how you view this game going. From a betting side, though, I would bet Washington in this spot. And if you have a little more risk to you and you want a little more, risk, you can take the money line and just sweat on, the winner, Washington winning, because I really think that the Bucks are just going to kind of try and coast.
All right, so Drew Holiday 8K, he's going to have a lot of interest, right? Bobby Portis 6,500.
Drew Holiday will be like 70% owned.
Right. But now let's look at these guys from like 4-3 down. So let's say I want to throw like a third guy in there, or I just want to choose one of Holiday or Portis and then play, a secondary buck. I got Lopez at 43, Allen at 42, Connaughton at 41, Javon Carter even at 3,800. No Bembry tonight. Serge Ibaka's only 3,500. Who would you be looking for some value here with Milwaukee?
I mean, you could use all those guys you really said, in my opinion, outside of like, I probably won't play Javon Carter, but like he's probably still in play. Like, you could still look to him. I think the guys though, like Pat Con, I think is someone. Grayson Allen, definitely you could use. Brook Lopez is the one where it's like you could definitely play him at that price tag. They will be cautious though, I think, with his minutes still.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what his minutes will be. I don't think he's getting, low 30s though. I think they're going to keep it in the 20s somewhat. Mm-hmm. But again, if he plays 25 or 28 minutes at that price tag, he can easily get there at that price tag. So I think all those guys in play. Serge though does make sense because with Giannis out, to me, he kind of moves into that like Bobby Portis role, or we kind of saw Bobby Portis last game. He played like 22 minutes. And if Serge Ibaka gets that type of role in this spot against Washington, that extra 4 or 5 minutes, he could have a pretty good game. So, I think he's a guy we definitely have to look at that gets a bump, especially if I think Brook Lopez isn't playing big minutes. You're already down Giannis and Middleton. Middleton's a 2-3 guy. So, yeah, I think PatCon, I think Serge are the two guys off the bench that I like the most. It'll be interesting to see what they do, like if Jordan Nwora picks up a little more of a role, because we saw in the last game his role got pretty much cut all the way down until the very end. With Brook Lopez in the starting lineup, Bobby Portis coming off the bench, Wes Matthews starting. So it'll be interesting to see if he stays kind of on the bench and they just enhance the roles of these other guys. Or because if they do that, then all these other guys are really good plays, right? But if they add another guy like him to the rotation, they might stay, within a couple minutes of what they got last game. So that's the question. If they do that, hopefully they don't, but they might.
All right. Great breakdown, JSU. RunPureSports.com. Promo code GetBets. Join it. Let's go. Chicago Bulls are +3 in New Orleans, taking on the Pelicans. Market loves the Pelicans here. This was like -1 last night. Total of 224, +127 on the money line for the Bulls. Is there some injury news that I missed here? Oh, DeMar DeRozan's out.
DeRozan's out, yeah.
Oh, man. This is the second time this has happened to me. And I was all getting ready to make a big case for the Bulls here. This was going to be my little contrarian play, and I figured I was going to be opposite because, all the things that we said about the Bulls at the top of the show are true, right? But we're talking about them going against playoff quality opponents, not the 10th seed in the West, which I think is actually at this point the division or the conference with less depth. Right. And I know the Pelicans have played well and CJ McCollum is great. Right. And Herb Jones is actually a great defender and Valanciunas is playing well. I'm not necessarily sold on this Pelicans uptick like everyone else. It's cost me a little money so far, but I'm kind of going to stick with it. But now that DeRozan's out, boy, I don't really. I was all ready to just throw on the Bulls hat and bring it back to the 90s and really be a big Chicago fan here tonight. I see that Zach LaVine is in. Brandon Ingram is doubtful, however, right? So maybe that kind of offsets here. I guess I still lean towards the Bulls because I'm not sold on the Pelicans, but I've definitely underestimated this team before. Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to have to side with the Pelicans here.
With DeRozan out, it's really hard to argue.
DeMar, so it's basically the LaVine show now because Vucevic cancels out with Joe Val. Like, there's really no advantage there.
Yeah.
You throw Herb Jones at Zach LaVine. It's a very good defender. He kind of chases him around, nags him all night. It's like, where else is their offense going to come from? Guys like Ayo, Javonte Green, Caruso. Like, they could put up numbers.
Vukovic.
Well, Vukovic is getting canceled out by Joe Val. They're the same person.
Okay, good point there.
So that I got to side with New Orleans here because I just think CJ's going to eat him up too. Like, they don't have a guard to slow him down. Like, I think he's going to absolutely torch him. You have him 3+ threes and win at plus 205. They have him 25+ points and win at plus 270. Those are my two favorite. And I would even play the Joe Val double and win because we know Vucevic can't play no defense. And if Joe Val gets those 10 rebounds, I think he can get us double-digit points.
All right. JSU, we're opposite here, but like I said, this isn't one of my strongest convictions. A little disappointed to see DeMar on that report. How do you approach this one?
Yeah, I think if I was picking the game here, I would side with the Pels at home. But at the same time, this is another game that I think is interesting for DFS because with no DeMar out, that really bumps guys like Vucevic and LaVine big time because DeMar is just the ultimate, like, give me the ball, ISO, get out of my way. And he just soaks up so much with the ball. And so the offense is going to be a little different. Now, from a team standpoint, I do think it hurts them because when they need a bucket, he was the guy that they've been going to this year, right, to get that bucket, especially down the stretch. Not that I don't think LaVine couldn't do that, right? He's very capable, could easily do that. Vucevic is a beast too, but I think the Pels are the right side to be on for the game. For DFS, I mean, this is a good game to attack. The problem is the price tags for the Pels, I think, are very fair. Maybe you're overpaying a little bit for some of these guys like CJ at 9-1, but at the same time, like, he could go off. So I could see it in a tournament playing some CJ. But Devontae Graham at 5'9", no thank you. Herb Jones at 5'7", nah, he's a good defender, but no, DFS. I mean, price these guys where I think about playing them. Like, I wouldn't. What are we doing here? Jackson Hayes at 5'2". Now they're saying Larry Nance is probable to play. I don't think he'll play a monster role game one. But at the same time, if he's playing, who's he coming at the expense at? It's probably Jackson Hayes, right? Like, if we're saying who's the minutes that are going to get hurt the most. So if Jackson Hayes was playing like he played upper 30s in minutes against Charlotte and Atlanta, 38 minutes in both those games. I would assume Larry Nance takes a few of those minutes. Maybe he's at 30, but I assume he takes a few of them, which will hurt him. I think. And like Najee Marshall, 5K. Yeah, like, I can't pay these price tags. Alvarado, maybe he's like a super sneaky person for tournaments. Has been getting in the 20s in minutes. And, I don't think Nance being in really affects him. It's kind of shitty. He's 4.2. I wish he was like in the 3K range, even like 3.8 or something. But he's someone for tournaments at least you could play, and maybe he gets you. He could give you. He's gotten 30. He got 32 games ago against Atlanta in 24 minutes. I mean, but if he got you 20 to 30, like, you'd be happy and take it. No one's going to play him in tournaments. So, yeah, that side. And then the Chicago side is just who steps in for DeMar. I'm interested to see what they do with the starting lineup. Like, do we just assume that you got Vooch, LaVine, Javonte,
Patrick
Caruso,
Williams?
and Patrick Williams, or are they keeping Patrick Williams on the bench with that minutes limit and they start Ayo? Like, what do we think?
That's probably the route they go since Ayo started before.
So if we get that thing saying Patrick Williams is going to stay at like that 18 to 20-minute range, and he's not in the starting lineup, I assume it would be Io, right? Which would boost Io, especially if they're saying Pat Williams isn't going to play more than like 20 or 22 minutes. That would definitely boost Io for DFS. If Pat Williams is in and he had no minutes restriction, then he's in play, right, at that price tag. So that's a perfect example of news that we don't have that could affect the slate a little bit that, hopefully we get before lock, but we'll see.
All right, I know we don't have the news yet, but who would you prefer tonight, Jrue Holiday or Zach LaVine?
Probably Jrue.
Okay.
And the reason I was
thinking LaVine, but I'm curious. So why?
I think it's we're kind of nitpicking a little bit, but again, at the same time, they're both pretty similar to me. The only difference is like Jrue is with nobody. LaVine is with Vooch at least, right? Like he's got some of these other young guys that are around him, in my opinion, that could give them a spot big game. You know what I mean? They're not guys that are going to consistently give them big games, but like, I don't know, if I told you Kobe White came off the bench today and instead of playing, 20 minutes, played 28 minutes and had 25 points, I don't think you'd be shocked. Like he could give you a big game, like one game. You know what I'm saying?
Especially against that Pelicans backcourt.
Right.
It's not the best defensive backcourt.
In the second unit too, right? Like, second unit. So that's where I would probably side with Jrue. I also just I just have this feeling that I think Washington keeps it close. I have no idea why, but it's just going to lean me more to, Washington Jrue lineups or something like that. So that I just know that in my head. I already have this in my head. Not that I won't play some LaVine. It's just, I definitely am going to want to play some Jrue, I think.
I just think that's going to be an interesting situation, for the guards that most people building lineups are going to have to go through, right?
Because
around the same.
But spread, though, to the thinking, if you think the game blows out, then you should play LaVine over Jrue.
Right.
If you think the Bulls win or keep it close, then you should have LaVine over Jrue Holiday. So again, you have to game.
Are the Pelicans ready to start blowing teams out? Are they going to blow this team out? I'm not saying.
I don't think they're going to blow them out.
I don't personally. So
again, though, that's where you got to decide, right? I think it is safer though, spread.
Tyler, who would you rather have tonight, LaVine or Holiday?
I side with LaVine because I think Milwaukee's going to stomp Washington.
Yeah,
but the thing about it is Washington can't guard point guards. They could drop them and beat them by 40, and Jrue could still have a great game. So that's the
Washington can't guard
that's
anybody.
The kicker here. That's true. Yeah.
About it.
But like you're gonna send Neto to guard Jrue Holiday, like a foot difference in height, like Corey Kispert. Nobody.
Let's wait a second. Time out here. They should put KCP. If their coach is half a coach, they'll put KCP on Jrue Holiday.
They should, but then where do you hide Neto at?
Well, what do you mean? You're going to hide him on Grayson Allen, and if he shoots threes over him, you lose. Like that's just right. Like
that is true. It makes me want to pick Grayson Allen a little more though. It's like a little fill-in spot.
Yeah. Grayson Allen's a good play. I think he's another guy. He could pop off for a big game. Now, if I'm the Wizards though, like if you ever play against a guy like Grayson Allen, you just got to run him off the line, and if that dude beats you going to the rim, you just take the L. Like if he makes a play or he doesn't want to give it up. Guys like Grayson Allen, they want to catch and shoot, catch one dribble and shoot, or like just, go for the rim. They don't want to actually like attack you, right? They want to like catch, do one quick move or catch and shoot. Knowing that going in. So that's why you could hide a guy like Neto on a guy like Grayson Allen.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Let's go to the game. I actually like this game a lot. So the Indiana Pacers, coming off that loss that I was talking about last night, are now catching 11.5 in Memphis, taking on the Grizzlies. Total of 235.5, plus 516 here. We mentioned it at the top. So for DFS, this is tough because we're still waiting to find out if Tyrese Halliburton will be in there. I don't think Gogo Batadze does much to the way you're making your lineups, right? Isaiah Jackson out, Chris Duarte out, Malcolm Brogdon out, Jalen Smith in. I think that's actually interesting from a DFS perspective. And on the Memphis side, No Dylan Brooks and no Brandon Clark, as well as John Morant's still going to be out for a little while here. I don't care. I still like Memphis, man. If Memphis can beat Brooklyn by 12, what are they going to do to this Pacers team that they can't even beat the Kings at home? What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm on the same side as you. It's Memphis or pass for me. And seeing as though like some of these guys on this injury report, Desmond Bain should absolutely kill this team.
Yeah, I was thinking he's going to have a big night.
25 plus in win, plus 160, 5 plus assists because he's going to play a lot of that point guard role too, plus 205. You could do Jaren Jackson, 25 plus in win at plus 230. His double-double in wins plus 370. Or you can go right to Steven Adams, who doesn't play a lot of minutes, but he will feast on this front court. You could do his double-double and win. So I don't hate any of those. But yeah, I think Memphis definitely picks up the W here.
Yeah, JSU, I can't wait to see how you approach this one because we got the news early, right? Desmond Bain's only 7,100, Jaren Jackson only 6,900. What do you think of the Grizzlies and the Pacers?
This is another game, like if you're just looking at it for DFS, this is another game that I think you shouldn't just completely cross over. Now, man, the Grizzlies have looked really good. I do want to wait and make sure that is Halliburton like for sure in? Did we get
No,
that
he's
news?
questionable. We're still waiting on that. That's why I said this one's tough from a DFS perspective on the Indiana side. But I think you got some great opportunities here, or do you think these guys have been priced up correctly?
No, I definitely think you have some guys on Memphis that you can play. I mean, look at Desmond Bain. You can still play him. DeAnthony Melton with Dylan Brooks and Brandon Clark. He's another guy. Tyus Jones. Kyle Anderson probably gets a bump in minutes. I just never play Kyle Anderson.
I can't wait to hear you and Big T break that one down.
He's cheap, so I mean, I don't know.
The best shows are when the optimizers tell you that you should play Kyle Anderson, and Big T has to find 5,000 reasons not to do it.
I just never play. Yeah, he's like Taj Gibson 1.0, 2.0 for me. I just never play these guys. Like I just refuse. John Conchar, though, maybe he has a little bit of a bigger role off the bench. I'm just trying to think, like, especially if you think this game blows out, those are the type of plays that, like, I don't think people will play that could win you a tournament at low ownership. So that again, I do think we want to wait and see with Halliburton how that news shakes out. But if he's in, probably going to play some of these Pacers again and run it back. Even my guy Buddy Hield, who Big T made fun of yesterday because I played him and he dropped a little 49.75. Tony, is that something you might be interested in? A little 49.75, buddy? If you're listening, I'm just asking for a friend, but yeah. So I think I could go back to him. I mean, it stinks picking on Memphis, but on a 5-game slate, right, spread, it's a little different than like an 11-game slate, especially when you've got both sides have dudes out, right, already, and we don't even know about Halliburton, but both sides have dudes out. So we have value. I think this is another game you could attack for sure. The way to attack it, though, is going to change based off of Halliburton in or out for me, though, no doubt.
I think this is a fun slate for DFS because we got the news early on a lot of these teams, but we don't necessarily know who's going to step up, right? We know that, one or two of these guys from Memphis is going to be low priced and score a lot of points. It's just trying to figure out who. And, we've been making some good time today, JSU, right? We haven't taken too many detours. So I have to know, what do you think about Memphis's chances here in the playoffs, right? It seems like that number 2 seed is going to be pretty secure. The Warriors have definitely, slowed down a bit. And, of course, losing Steph Curry is going to do that to you. But, right, Memphis clearly the number 2 seed here. Not a lot of playoff experience, though. First-round exit last season. What do you expect from Memphis this season when the playoffs begin?
Yeah, I mean, I said this for a while. Spread, we've talked about this on the show, but I think Memphis is the team in the West that nobody wants to play. Maybe outside of Phoenix. Like Phoenix might be the only team that doesn't give a shit who they play because they're, they got CP3 and Book and they have Mikal Bridges. Like they just, I don't think they're afraid of going up against anyone. But like, damn, if I'm the Warriors right now and I'm watching this Memphis team and Steph Curry's hurt right now, like Draymond's been, not healthy for some of the season. Like Clay's, obviously coming back from the really bad injury. Like, you got to just be looking at this Memphis team going, damn, this team is deep. They're tough.
Mm-hmm.
They're gritty. They don't care who, in my opinion too, they love playing like the good teams. They get like so pumped up to play like the stud teams, like the Golden State teams. This team just like, you can tell too when they play, they're just good, man. They don't take days off normal. Like, it's just, they freaking grind it out. They play tough basketball, even when Ja's out. It's just like the next man steps up. You saw like Tyus Jones. Like, how many times has Ja been out and Tyus Jones just come in and he give you like a real solid performance? Like, I mean, it's not a Ja Morant, like, 30, 10, 10 game, but it's like, 15 points, 10 assists, gives you a couple rebounds, a steal or a block or something. Like, that's a solid game out of your backup. And then you got guys like Melton who can pop off for 20 when they need them to. Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bane, these good wing defenders with Jalen Jackson and Adams. They have a little bit of everything that you need, in my opinion, to be a winning basketball team. The question is going to be for them when it comes time for the dude to take over in the playoffs. We already know who the dude is. It's just, can he do that for multiple series?
Mm-hmm.
If Ja Morant can do that and he stays healthy, this team has a chance to get out of the West. No doubt in my mind. And I think they're probably the only team. It's three teams to me, if Steph is right, that
Mm-hmm.
have a chance. I don't think the rest have a chance to get out of the West. And I'm being real. I love Luka. I'm just not a Utah guy, but like, I still don't think they can go through that gauntlet of those three teams at the top. And, I give Memphis the second best shot outside of Phoenix. That's just how I feel about them. I think they're a really good team, and I think they're the biggest threat in the West to Phoenix.
So, Tyler, this Memphis team really gives me that same vibe or aura, right, of the Golden State Warriors, their first year when they won the championship, right? Because their motto that year was strength in numbers, right? And we kept seeing it, right? And they had Andrew Bogut at the center, right? Who was just the big guy that could set screens and did everything that didn't show up on the stat sheet, right? You got Steven Adams here, right? They had the young, ascending, future MVP candidate that year was Steph Curry. The Grizzlies have Ja Morant. And then they got all these role players that just step in and get it done. Do you expect to see the Grizzlies in the conference finals, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, there's a very good chance they're there. I mean, you look at the West, just like JSU said, there's not many teams outside of that top three that could really make noise. Like, maybe Dallas catches lightning.
Dallas is the only one I'll throw in there. If you want to give me the fourth, I say Dallas.
Maybe Luka pulls like what he did in the Olympics. Like, he just drags the team along. Yeah. All of a sudden, they're in the conference finals, and it's like, how'd they get here? And it's on his back. They can defend,
too, so you need to get stops in the playoffs.
Yeah, but I still think it's Phoenix all the way through. I think they coast up until that conference finals. And then they win that one in about 6 games, and they're in the finals again.
What about this too, guys? Like, what about this? So you got the West right here. In Golden State, they're going to be out with Steph for a little bit, right? Like, what if somehow Utah or Dallas in the win-loss column catches Golden State, one of those teams gets up on Golden State, and then now in the second round, Golden State has to play the Suns. Those two teams beat up, and Memphis has an even easier route, in my opinion, if that happens. And I think it could happen. Like Golden State, like they could easily drop a few more games in one of these teams like Utah or Dallas, who have been, at least playing tough. Like one of them catch them. Like that could easily happen. And if it does, that just means Memphis, in my opinion, has an even easier path to get to the Western Conference Finals and face off with the winner of the Suns and, Golden State probably.
Yeah, definitely possible at JSU. Golden State 48-25 right now. Utah and Dallas are both 45-28. 3 games back with 10 games to go here. So definitely a possibility. And hey, we've talked about the obvious favorite here in the Western Conference, and they got some good news because Chris Paul is back tonight. Moved the line from +4 to +1. Man, I almost liked him at +4. I really wish I would have taken it. I didn't expect him to come back tonight. I thought they would play it a little safer, but I guess it makes sense, right? They had a pretty tough win last night over the Timberwolves, man. At a couple points, I didn't think that was going to get home and cash for me, but they got there. Now they take on the Nuggets, right? And Tyler and I, we talk about this team all the time, but I do think that Jokic is just carrying this team on his back, and he's not getting much from his teammates. Now he's going against what I think is the exact opposite team, right? Almost like the strength in numbers idea here with Phoenix, man. It just doesn't seem to matter. They just keep putting guys in there. I think it's credit to the coach Monty Williams. You know, on a different show I do, we were laughing that Monty Williams wasn't the coach of the year last year, and Tom Thibodeau was, because Monty Williams is clearly a top 5 coach in the NBA. CP3's back. You know, I know that Jokic is my MVP, but I'm going to go with the Suns here. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I think this line was wrong from the jump. I know the Suns played last night.
I think that was it, right? And then
I don't know how they're +4 against a one-man band that they swept out of the playoffs last year. Like, they're going to go with that same game plan. Lock the other 4 guys down. Let the big guy bang with Ayton. Big guy scores 30. Oh, well, because the next closest guy's got 10. So give me the Suns here. I took them this morning at +140. I'd still bet them at even money. I think they're going to win this game by double digits. Even, like, maybe CP3 coming back is a little bit of, like, a hiccup to them. But I don't see him being a guy that's like, I'm going to shoot the ball 25 times. He's going to come back in, run the offense. I think it gives him that extra, like, pump up too. Like, oh, we're back to, like, finals or bust here now. Our guy's back. So I think they wipe the floor with Denver here. Give me Phoenix. And these player performance doubles with them being an underdog spread, the odds are shot way up. Booker 30+ and win is +370. Booker 4+3s and win is +440. We were betting these at like +160. You're damn right I'm betting them at +370 and +440 now.
All right. JSU, Tyler and I both like the Suns here. Oh, and also just to say what Tyler was talking about, I don't think Chris Paul coming back hurts at all. I think, you know, he's up there with LeBron as far as basketball IQ, right? So it's like he's going to come in, and I think it's going to be as close to seamless as the return can be. What do you think?
Why would Chris Paul coming back hurt any team?
Just sometimes when the star comes back, right, there's an issue, right?
Yeah, it's just getting the guy work back into the fray. It's like they slow it down.
Yeah,
but I don't think Paul's one of them.
This team's been to the finals with this pretty much exact team. Like, they've played together. I don't think it's one of those where we're going to see too much of maybe Chris Paul has just a little rust himself, maybe. But again, like you said, I don't think he's going to force it with the team around him that he has. He doesn't need to force it against Denver. Denver is Denver is Jokic with a bunch of other dudes right now. That's their team. They have Jokic, and then it's just everyone else. And really, all those other guys outside of like Bones have fallen off dramatically, like crazy, especially since the break. So, I mean, if Jokic gives them 40, yeah, you lose. You might still win though, as crazy as that sounds, because Jokic
wasn't he putting up those numbers in the playoffs though last year? Wasn't he?
Yeah, they would just let him go do his thing, and it was like, all right.
Because it's like that. It's like that saying, like, okay, if you can stop everyone else and you just force the star to go 1-on. I always thought this was always my opinion when you look at guys like Jokic, right? When you look at a guy like Jokic, you don't want to double him. And I know that's crazy to say, and you'll be like, oh, Jay, that's stupid because he'll just dominate you. Yes, but no. You would rather him dominate you offensively than him do what he actually wants, which is get everyone involved, right? Get everyone comfortable. He dominates. Think about how he starts games off all the time. You'll see that stat line of like 4, 4, and 6. And you're like, holy shit, Jokic is dominating from a fantasy side in the first quarter. He's not going off for like 20 in the first quarter, though, like 20 actual points. He doesn't do that shit. Why? Because teams don't force him to do that shit. They force him to pass the ball. I think that's the worst strategy against Jokic. In my opinion, you make him, especially with a guy like Ayton, you have someone who can at least body with him, and you say, all right, dude, you're going to get 40 points, but they're going to be tough every time because Ayton's going to play you straight up. He's going to make you shoot tough shots, and if you make them, congrats. But we're not going to let you just, do whatever you want. And I think that's the biggest mistake people do with Jokic all the time is they just let him, like, he's so smart. he can tell by whatever defense you're playing what he has to do. He's very high IQ. So when you throw that double team, he's just so good at finding the cutter, finding the open guy in the corner, and he makes passes effortlessly. And that's why he gets all those highlights. Teams should not double him. They should play him straight up, and they should just force him to score 30 or 40. And if he does that, you give him a pat on the back and you say, we'll get you next time. Like, that's it.
Doesn't he rub you as the kind of guy, too, like, looking at all his, like, game logs, dude never crosses, like, 25 shots. And if he gets to 25 shots, it's like a game where he's just chucking them. Like, if you get him into that mode where it's like, you better shoot this, we're going to let you pass it, I think he's going to get into the mode where he's like, I'm going to force these passes. Like, I don't want to be shooting this ball.
Correct. And that's what you rather him do.
Yeah, get him out there thinking.
Yeah, feel like he needs to force passes because he needs to get others involved because he's so used to doing it, right? That's how I always thought it was dumb to double guys like Jokic. First of all, he's taller than everyone else on the court. You doubling him with, you're going to have one tall guy, but, like, he can still, like, see over you. He's got long arms. How many times do you see him, like, do this with his arm, and he's got the ball in his, side hand, and he's, like, just looking for the cutter to just fling that ball to. You're not going to slow him down. He wants to pass the ball. Like, he wants to assist. That's what he likes doing.
All right. Well, we think that might happen. Does that mean you're interested here in Jokic at, let me get this price tag, 11-4, or how do you approach this game when you're building your lineup?
It's going to all depend on how, how I end up building. Cause, like, if I stack a team and, let's just use, like, Chicago for an example, right? Like, if I stack a team and use value and I play the Chicago studs like Vooch and Levine, and I want CJ on the bring back, like, there's no way I'm going to play Jokic, right? Because I'll need a bunch of other value. The question's going to be, is there enough value from because the way I build, like, on these slates for sure, like, I'm definitely going to try and game stack some of these games. And I'm not game stacking Phoenix versus Denver because outside of Jokic for Denver, there's no one I really have interest in. They bumped Bones' price. He's like $5K. If he was 3.7, I might have a little interest, but at $5K, I'm not going to pay that price tag.
$5,200.
I'm not paying for Aaron Gordon. I'm not falling into Will Barton or Monte Morris right now. I'm just not doing it. It's going to be Jokic or no one else. And then on the Phoenix side, you could play Devin Booker or Chris Paul, but with Chris Paul back, I'm probably going to stay off that side as well. So if I play anyone, it's going to be Jokic in a game stack where I feel like I'm getting enough value to be able to play Jokic. A perfect example would be a Drew Holiday team with value from Milwaukee, some value from Washington, and then you finish it off with Jokic. So your two main spend-ups are Drew and Jokic. You might fade Porzingis in that build. I don't know. I haven't built yet, so I don't think you could do Porzingis. I don't know if there's that much value. You might be able to. But maybe you play, like I said, Rui and Denny and KCP with Drew and Serge, and then you play Jokic, right? Like, those are the type of builds where I could play a Jokic. But I couldn't play him in, like, a Pels Chicago stack. I wouldn't do that. Probably in Indy, Memphis, maybe you could do it, depending on if Halliburton's in or out. Just trying to give examples, but, like, that's how I see myself building. I'm going to focus on the games that have the most pieces, and then if at the end of my build with my last spot left, I have a bunch of money to fill in with Jokic, I will play Jokic, but I'm not going to force him into builds.
All right. And the final question here, because Tyler and I have to know, if you had an MVP vote, who are you voting for?
It's Jokic. It's not even close.
Yes.
It's not even close. If you took Jokic off this team, would win.
I love the way Spread asked that question to all the people he knows are going to say Jokic.
Well, this team would win maybe 8 games. Like, I'm not even kidding you right now. This team would be by far the worst team in the NBA. It's not even close.
My argument, they're in the same spot Steph was last year, and guess what? Steph didn't win it. Jokic ain't winning shit.
Well,
we're not saying who's going to win. We're saying who would you vote for?
Game. He's dragging his team along by himself. No MVP's ever won it out of the playing game. Yeah, he ain't winning it.
Oh,
he was a top 3 seed last year when he won it, and there was nobody else in his path.
There's another reason why he won't win it, but we won't go there right now. We all know the real reason why he won't win it again, but
they don't
the
like
real
him either.
reason. No, exactly. They don't want to push him. He's not athletic. He's just he's different, right? He's a different stud in the NBA.
Not a guy you can put on TV and be like, look at this. Like, this is our new thing.
Even though if you like good basketball, you should like him. He's just not like Steph is transcendent, right? Like I saw that. Did you guys see that post where it was like, okay, who's changed the game more? And it was like a Mount Rushmore, and it had like MJ, LeBron, Kobe, and Steph. Those were the 4 guys, and it had them like one was higher than the other, and it was like who's changed the game more? Like whose game like had the most imprint on like people and players probably coming in. And in my mind, I don't know about you guys, this might be crazy, but like I think MJ is one because I think all those players. I think all those players looked up to MJ, and now I think everyone would put Kobe 2. And this isn't a slight against Kobe.
What did Kobe do besides mimic MJ?
Well,
how did he change anything?
Well, hold on. Steph is no doubt number 2 because he has changed the game completely. You can make the argument Steph is 1 for how much he's changed the game. I don't think he is because I think MJ is for sure. But you could make the argument, in my opinion, because of the shooting, right? And how he's changed. Even the way kids think of playing the game.
Exactly.
Now.
Watch these highlights.
Every kid wants to be Steph. Every kid.
I mean, just rewind to 2015, 2014, and it's like you watch the basketball then, and then you watch the basketball in 2016 on. It's like something happened, and it's like you got to figure out what, and that something is Steph Curry.
No, it's no doubt in my mind. I'm telling you right now, too, if you ever coach, like I coached young kids for a while. I've coached like all ages up to high school from like literally, 9 years old all the way to high school. And you could see it. Like I coached like 8 years, like the last 8 years. I stopped like 2 years ago. But before then, like before COVID, I stopped. But like before then, you could see it starting to happen even in the younger kids' grades, just where they're all doing step back threes. And I'm like, no, stop doing that crap. Like pass the ball. They're coming down the court and they're just heaving it. It's like, oh, but I'm Steph. Like they all want to be Steph.
Right.
There's nobody else. It's not like Trae Young will probably be the next guy that everyone's trying to mimic. I think he is like the next launcher that kids are going to gravitate to, where you just see him like chucking threes and stuff, and kids love it. But everyone wants to be Steph.
And Dave says,
I think the other thing about it too, though, it's going to sound bad when I say it, but like his style is a lot easier to replicate than like a Ja Morant. Like if you don't have that athleticism, you're not going to build up the knees to go jump at the hoop like that, to where like it's like, well, watching this guy shoot all these threes, it's like if I stand out here long enough and just keep flinging threes, eventually I'm going to get kind of good at it. I might not be as good as him, but I could play like him. So I think that's the other reason why they gravitate towards him a little more too. It's the same thing with Shaq. Like unless you're 7 foot, 300 pounds, you can't replicate that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing about Shaq is this
job, but you make a good point. Like you can't replicate that.
Yeah, like if you don't have the athleticism, you just can't.
Think about it. Like when I was a kid, I was doing the fadeaways like I was Allen Iverson. You know what I mean? Like I would just that crossover, that little shimmy crossover, and then just hit him with the little 1-step fade back, off the foot. And it's like I would do that constantly and pretend like I'm Allen Iverson. Well, I'm thinking about it right now. Like you can't pretend to be Ja. Like unless you lower the hoop to like 6 feet or something like that, and you're like, oh, I'm just skying. But
and you're just
right.
born ridiculously fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dave here says, can argue Steph won every video I see. And I would say that too, right? That I'm not going to get mad if you say Steph won. My argument for Jordan would be in the 80s, it was a center-based league. Everything went through the center. After Michael Jordan came, we started building around forwards. And all the championship teams since Jordan have been built around a forward, except for the Spurs, right, with Tim Duncan, even though technically he was a power forward, right, but that was still the old style. But every other one was built around a perimeter-based guy. So that's why I would argue Jordan on the number one here. But it's just a fun
all
argument.
Those guys coming in after Jordan, they all wanted to be Jordan. We're going to see it soon in the NBA. Like Tyler talked about it in 2016. These kids that are going to start to come in the NBA in the next couple of years, you're going to see it. They're all going to be wanting to be Steph.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Ja. I don't. If they got the athleticism to be Ja, maybe. I hope it's Ja. I love Ja's game.
And just like you just said, Ja guy. How you said everyone after MJ wanted to replicate MJ. Mm-hmm. I think that's slowly starting to fade. We all know it still came from MJ, the original. Now all these young kids, you know who they're gravitating towards? Kobe. Because that's who.
Well, yeah, because that's who they saw.
Yeah. It's all. You seen Scotty Barnes? He was like in that interview, like, did you watch LeBron? He's like, I was more of a Kobe fan. Like, all these kids watched him, so like they're gonna be like MJ, who like we know who Michael Jordan is, but we didn't watch him play. We seen Kobe, so that's who we gravitate towards.
Yeah, and I can't argue with that, right? Because it's like at this point, expecting them to go find all these old highlights and mimic after that, rather than the guy that they're watching every single night. I got one more hot take from you, and then we'll get into the best bets here. So let's go back to Jordan, right? Jordan didn't win the MVP every year, but if you're my age and you're growing up watching that, he was the best player every year. He should have won every year from like 85 to 96 in my mind. Like he was literally the most valuable player for those 11 straight years. My hot take is though, even though he won't win the award this year, Giannis is actually the most valuable player because I just think he's irreplaceable and he's the best player in the NBA right now. What do you think, Tyler?
That comment that just came in the chat.
What, LeBron?
Yeah. Like,
Giannis is better than LeBron right now.
Right now, I mean, yeah, but like, if you're gonna argue,
LeBron doesn't even play defense.
But if
Giannis
you're gonna argue,
out here,
you rip a guy off a team, and like, yeah, Milwaukee takes a step down without Giannis, but like, I bet you they're still like a play-in tournament team. I know the Lakers stink with LeBron right now, but you pull him off, they might win like 6 games.
I guess, but now we're kind of moving Milwaukee up. Nobody thought Milwaukee had a chance last year. I remember when I picked Milwaukee, the whole team went, what? Because the supporting cast wasn't that good. Now we think they're good. But, yeah, I understand your point there. JSU, what do you think if I say Giannis is actually the best player in the NBA?
I wouldn't have any problem with it. I mean, I think right now he probably is the best player, right? Like, I don't think he was 2 years ago. No doubt in my mind.
Right.
Like, he wasn't. But now I think he has a legitimate case for it. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I still think LeBron has a case as well. I just think Giannis is better. But the way LeBron's been playing, I don't think you can throw him like out of the bucket, of people contending for the best player in the league. At this age, what he's doing is unbelievable. Like, right. It's absolutely ridiculous. We don't see people play at this type of level at that age. Right. Like, come on, give me someone.
No, even Jordan wasn't this good at that age.
That's like LeBron, in my opinion, that's LeBron's best case for being the best player of all time is his longevity, but not just that he played and that he was elite for this long.
Yeah.
That's the insane part because everyone remembers Jordan after the Bulls. And he wasn't Jordan, right? Like he
was 40 at that point.
But he could still like pop off and give you a big game every now and then. But he was not Jordan, right? And LeBron is still pretty. You see that dunk on Kevin Love? Like that is not a 38-year-old man
How about the headlock Kevin Love put him in for it?
Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't happy. You know what I mean? Like, bro, at least let me get out of the way real quick. Like, come on. So
all right, and so for everyone who watches this show and we're thinking, gosh, these guys went through the first 4 games. They didn't even do any detours. We got it there for you at the end, right? And just got some general basketball talk in. But Tyler, Hardwood Live is about to start, but we got to give the people the best bets. What's your best bet for today? Side, total, or prop?
I think you already know where I'm going with this spread. Give me those Phoenix Suns money line. They're going to win this game by 10+.
Okay, and I bet that while we were talking here. JSU, what's your best bet for today, side, total, or prop?
So I'm gonna get on the Phoenix Suns bandwagon with Tyler, and then if you want some real gamble on it, you can get those Wizards at plus 300 or whatever if you want
All
to
right.
some real gamble on it. But Suns are the best bet, no doubt.
All right. I'll throw in one more in there. We talked about the Memphis Grizzlies. I'll go ahead and lay the 11.5. This Pacers team is looking forward to the offseason, like I said. And I mean, hey, crazier stuff's been happening. So I wouldn't even go more than one unit here. This isn't, to me, the best slate for betting. I think it's much more fun for DFS, actually. But I'll take the Memphis Grizzlies minus 11.5. Tyler, you know what we love to do here, and that's throw together a parlay. What do you got for us?
All right, we're going to go with CJ McCollum 3+3s in New Orleans and beat Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to roll with that Devin Booker 30+ points and they beat Denver. And then the final leg, we're going to go Grayson Allen 3+3s and Milwaukee picks up that win. It gives a 35-1.
I still can't believe Grayson Allen is this good. If you would have told me coming out of Duke, I thought for sure this guy, if he was in the NBA, it was going to be garbage time only. So credit to him for getting the most out of his ability.
He's
JSU,
also on the correct team.
Yep.
Like, let's
He's
be
in the
honest.
perfect spot.
He's like a perfect role player on a team that he's on.
Yeah, but he did well in Memphis too to just prove that he could do it. So
another team though that used his role correctly, like he didn't start though in Memphis, right?
No, but I remember when I would bet on Memphis, I would be in the chat, like not in the chat, but in the chat, like complaining, oh, Grayson Allen, and it's like we're screwed, and then he'd end up doing pretty good. And after 3 or 4 games, I realized like, okay, this guy Grayson Allen kid actually deserves a rotational spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought this was kind of what he could be in the NBA. You didn't
Yeah.
think
I didn't
so?
see it. No, I know. I didn't think he was going to have the athleticism. I thought he was going to just get killed on defense and not have the offense to justify putting him out there.
And make up for your defense, it's not as bad.
Yeah. And when you're given that effort, I think that helps a lot too. JSU, do you want to let everyone know all the great content Run Pure Sports will be providing this weekend?
Yeah, we got, all sports. PGA kicked off a couple days ago. We got NBA. I saw F1 was added, so we're going to have some F1 content. Wow. Yeah, just we're going to have it all. So, you know what I mean? You name it, NASCAR, MMA. Every week, the boys break it down. Titled DC and Kegger go live. I'm not sure if it's going to be Friday or Saturday this week. I know it's 1 or 2 of the days, but they'll be live on the Run Pure Sports YouTube page one of those 2 days, either tomorrow or Saturday, breaking down the fights. And then NBA shows, Hardwood Live starting in the next 2 minutes, and then we got the Up the Lock show at 6:30 tonight because the slate locks at 7:30, and we got a Discord channel. So if you're not a member, become a member, get in the Discord. We got people in there answering questions all throughout the night. Good time, people sweating out the game. So check us out.
All right. And we will be back tomorrow with one of the hottest rising stars in this industry, JSU, Glaucoma, who just comes on and just gives winners left and right. Quick, concise breakdowns. Love having him on. So we'll be back at 3:30 Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. A lively chat today. I didn't get a chance to get everyone there on the screen, but I appreciate everyone joining and making the show even better. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, Run